From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Friday, December 12, 2025. One of the youngest members of a prestigious Melbourne AFL family has been unmasked as a rapist. Tom Silvani is the son of Carlton legend Stephen Silvani and TV presenter Joe Silvani. The 23-year-old was convicted on December 5 of raping a woman twice after a house party. His identity was revealed after a suppression order was lifted by the Victorian County Court. The Australian government made more than $7 billion in tax revenue from legal tobacco sales in the past financial year, but it lost almost double that to the illegal trade. Those stories are live now at theaustralian.com.au. You can't dictate your circumstances, but you can control how you respond. That's the central message in a new book by Australian of the Year and AFL star Neale Daniher. And today, even though Daniher has lost his voice to the ravages of motor neurone disease, you're going to hear his words in his voice, sharing some of the wisdom he's gleaned from more than a decade living with this incurable, untreatable, terminal illness. Stay with us.
Life will throw difficulties at you. None of us get a free run, but you still get to choose your attitude, your effort, your response, and the meaning you make from what happens.
This is the voice of Neale Daniher, a legendary former coach and player in the game of Aussie rules.
Away goes Neale Daniher. Will he get a goal? It's a beautiful kick. Neale Daniher, welcome back.
Despite what you just heard, Neale Daniher, the 2025 Australian of the Year, cannot speak. Neale has, for the past 13 years, lived with motor neurone disease, a terminal, degenerative, incurable illness that has robbed him of not just the speed and strength that made him a star at Essendon throughout the 80s, and the big presence that made him a rock star coach for decades beyond. Neale's now also lost the basic abilities we all take for granted: walking, breathing comfortably, and talking. Technology does enable Neale to write, using his eye movements to form letters and words. And now it's also able to recreate his voice from the thousands of recordings over a life in the public eye. To mark the publication of his new book, Neale wrote answers to questions posed by the Australian's Fiona Harari, and then this remarkable text-to-speech technology brought his words to life for us.
My book isn't about pretending everything's easy. It's about reminding people that even in the toughest moments, you're not powerless. You can choose courage, gratitude, responsibility, hope, connection, and those choices made again and again can change your life. That's the message I want to leave with people. Your circumstances matter, but your choices matter more. Choose wisely.
Neale Daniher's book, which is out now, is called The Power of Choice.
If there's one thing I'd like people to take from this story, is that we all have more choice than we realise.
In many, many years and quite a few decades of being a journalist, I've never done an interview like this. In retrospect, I probably went in way too naively.
Fiona Harari is speaking to The Front's Kristen Amiot.
I'd been wanting to interview Neale Daniher, the Australian of the Year, for some time, and it's coming towards the end of the year, and I thought it would be a good time to try and do a profile of him. And then fortuitously, he's just got a new book out called The Power of Choice, which he's written for his grandchildren with the expectation that he won't live until they're adults. And he wanted to leave them some of his thoughts on how to live a good life. So I picked up this book and I started reading it, and, you know, being a bit of a cynical journalist, I wasn't expecting much, and I was really moved at how pragmatic and practical and authentic this man is in his view of life.
We asked Fiona to record the questions she asked Neale Daniher. His answers are written by himself but voiced by an AI model created from real samples of his voice. We stitched the two recordings together for you today.
What has your diagnosis taught you that you wish you'd known earlier in life?
We all have our ways of shifting our own death from our consciousness. We do so as a society as well by isolating the aged. So the terminal diagnosis was a sharp reminder that death is part of the cycle of life and gives you a heightened appreciation of life that you tend to take for granted when you're in good health. And it also taught me the value of slowing down. MND forced me to be present, and I've realised how much meaning sits in the small everyday moments. It's also sharpened my sense of what really matters. When life narrows, your priorities become clearer. People, purpose and contribution rise above everything else. And finally, it's given me a deeper humility. You learn quickly that you can't control everything and you don't need to. That acceptance has brought a calm I didn't have in my earlier years. These are lessons I came to late, but they've changed the way I live now.
What I didn't realise when I sought to have this interview was how incredibly restricted his life is. And part of the way in which he has promoted his illness and been able to be involved with raising a staggering $130 million for research towards an illness in which there really wasn't much research being done comparatively until the last few years. In some ways, it's sort of hidden, I felt, watching on TV, watching videos. You see him in a wheelchair, you see him smiling and not speaking, but it's not until you get closer that you realise this man is projecting really positive attributes, but not in a sugary, saccharine way, in a very authentic way. And he's doing it at a time where his life is becoming increasingly constricted. So I approached his publisher and they contacted him and they came back some days later and said, yes, he will do an interview, but he can barely move. He can't speak anymore and he requires eye gaze technology in order to communicate. And the one thing you notice straight away is that although so many other parts of his body are shutting down, his mind is incredibly sharp. And the frustrations he must have had to deal with watching so many parts of his body shut down, had he not had this technology, would have been horrendous. But he's harnessed it in the most extraordinary way because he, with the help of a publishing consultant, has been able to produce this extraordinary book without being able to type, without being able to talk, and really restricted physically. But intellectually, he's just this extraordinary man.
Some of these lessons, obviously being a football coach, it was his trade to motivate people, to inspire people, to go out there and run into men the size of fridges, running at them in the other direction. Does he give any indication is that maybe some of these lessons he might not have learned had he not been diagnosed with MND?
It's certainly been a catalyst. And he doesn't say he regrets anything in his past. It's just reframed the way he looks at things. So he's not at all preachy. He, from what I understand, was always a reader, but he has spent a lot of time thinking, since he got this diagnosis. And he uses the word transcend a lot. And he has managed to break through a barrier that probably most of us who are not confronting what he is would not even contemplate. He has been able to look at the flip side of many of the things that we take for granted in life. So rather than why me, he got to a point where he started thinking, well, what next? And that sort of thinking is what inspired him to set up Fight MND, this extraordinary charity that he set up that's, helped raise $130 million for research in Melbourne. The big freeze is, a huge part of Melbourne's winter these days. So that's when on the King's birthday weekend at the MCG, celebrities turn up and dress up and slide down into this freezing cold pool of ice.
3, 2, 1, go! And in she goes, trying to keep the face out. Oh, it's cold, she said. Look at that. She's duck paddling to try and get out as quick as she can. You wouldn't believe it.
And in June, when it happened this year again, he was already quite unwell then. And he got a standing ovation pretty much from the 85,000 strong crowd. But the other thing that was really noticeable was that an enormous number of these people had blue beanies on. And the blue beanies, I understand that the sight of them has become, even more than the big freeze event itself, a quintessential Melbourne winter sight these days. People wear them everywhere. And I understand that those sales as well are contributing to the money that they're raising for research. He's obviously not the first person to raise money for motor neurone, but I think it's fair to say he has focused way, way more attention on it than anyone else has been able to so far. He knows that he won't outlive it, but he truly believes that it's possible to find a cure. At the moment, there's no known cause and there's no known cure.
Coming up, more of Neale Daniher's wisdom.
Your mind seems to be one of your great strengths. Have you changed the way you think?
Yes, I've changed the way I think in some important ways. Vulnerability is a big one. Another shift has been around beliefs. In my younger years, I could be pretty black and white in my thinking. You know, once I formed an opinion, I held it tightly. Now I understand the importance of updating your beliefs, asking more questions and staying open. Stubbornness isn't strength, curiosity is. And I've changed the way I think about challenges. For a long time, like many people, I saw setbacks as things that happened to me. Now I try to look for the opportunity inside them. That mindset shift from why me to what now has made all the difference. It doesn't remove the hard stuff, but it gives you a way to move through it with purpose. So yes, my mind is one of my strengths, but it's grown stronger because I've been willing to rethink old ideas and choose better ones along the way.
Fiona Harari is a senior journalist with The Australian. You can read her story right now at theaustralian.com.au. And Neale Daniher's book, The Power of Choice, is in bookshops now.